everyone, welcome to the video about how to feed and take care of your starter. So first I'm going to go over what you'll need. You're going to need a kitchen scale, you're going to need an empty container, and you're going to need a spoon or a spatula. Okay, so the scale you can see, well, I don't know if you can see it, but it's off. So I'm going to place my empty container on the scale and then I'm going to turn it on. Now, even though I have a glass container on here, it still says that it's at 0 grams because this has now been zeroed out. Okay, so now that we're at 0, we're gonna take our sourdough starter. Yours will come in a plastic baggie, so don't worry, you're not gonna have as much as this, but you're just gonna take whatever you have and you're gonna empty some of it into your container. Let's say you're only gonna use this amount. Now we need to look at the scale and see that we have 183 grams of sourdough. Now you can either write this number down or however you want to remember it, but you have to remember this number because you're going to be measuring the water and the flour that you're going to add have to be equal to the amount of sourdough starter that you have. So everything's always going to be equal. If you have 183 grams of sourdough starter, you need 183 grams of this and 183 grams of this. So remember the magic number. And then you're going to take this off. Turn your scale back off. Turn it off again. Put this back on to zero it out again, but this time you're zeroing it out with the container and the sourdough on it, and then you're gonna turn it back on. So it then says 0 again. From there, you're gonna take your clean filtered water and you're gonna add 183 grams of water. Now, I'm doing this backwards for the video, so you wanna be careful that you don't go over. If you do, just scoop a little bit out, no big deal. But you want to get as close to the amount of grams as possible. So I'm at 177, 190. And what did we have before? 183? So I'm going to take some water. Okay, so we got 183. Can you see that? Okay, so then we're going to take this off. Turn this back off because we're going to have to zero it out again. And then you're going to stir this up until you get like a soupy consistency. So, stir it. Okay, now okay, so now we're going to zero it out again, adding this on top of the scale before we turn it on. Turning it on. So it then says 0. Then says 0 before we actually start adding the flour. So now we can add 183 grams of flour. Okay, so you just start adding your flour until it gets boom. All right, 183. Take it back off. Now you're done with the scale. And all you gotta do is mix again. I'm gonna fold it all in, make sure you get it mixed up really nice and good. It's probably a good idea to get as many chunks out as you can. So a couple things to keep in mind is that you want to have a space or a container that's going to be big enough for your sourdough to double, because as you leave this out overnight or as you leave it out to ferment and do its thing, it's going to take about 6 to 10 hours and it's going to pretty much double in size. So you want to make sure you have room for it to expand and grow. If you don't have room, it'll bubble out the side of it, whatever it is that you're holding it in. So this container is plenty big. It's going to give it plenty of space to grow. By the time in like 6 to 10 hours or so, you're going to have this whole container filled almost to the top with sourdough. It's going to be awesome and epic, and you can make some whatever you want to make with it. Bread, bagels, cookies, pancakes, waffles, whatever it is that you want to make with your sourdough, you can make it. I know people make tortillas with it. Like, there's so much stuff you can do with it. Oh, so now let's say you've got this, right, but you're not really you're not really wanting to make anything with it. You just let it sit for like a couple hours on your countertop, and then you can go ahead and put a lid on it and put it in the fridge, and then it won't, then you don't have to use it right away. It stores a little bit longer in the fridge than it would if you were just to leave it out on your countertop. So there's how to feed and take care of your sourdough starter.